COVID-19, one of the fears for people is how to execute elections. So for Nigeria, we've seen countries like South Korea show the rest of the world how to have elections during a pandemic. But for Nigeria, we have two states that have the elections in September and October, respectively. And INEC has come out to say that that these elections will still be in place, but people still have fears that how possible this would be. And the APC has announced their primaries, their primary elections, and there's also the conversation about the squabble in the APC camp as well. So what are your thoughts about having elections during peculiar times like this, a pandemic?
For me, this one, I think we must admit the fact that we cannot put the entirety of our life on hold because of the pandemic. Yes, we need to take safety measures, but I think that with the benefit of wisdom first, the safest way possible. And so I believe that it's a right step in the right direction to have elections in Edo State and Ondo State go on as earlier scheduled, because the dates were not just fixed, they were fixed a long time ago. However, I am satisfied or impressed with the fact that INEC has been able to roll out measures that they would be employing in ensuring that the election conforms to, that's the exercise now, conforms to the NCDC guidelines, health standards, health safety standards. So, and a number of these measures includes the use of masks by intending voters. They've talked about how they're going to ensure two-tier queuing system. They've talked about a number of measures using ventilated spirits to clean the card readers. I mean, there's so much that they've announced, and I just hope that they are able to keep to these measures. If they can promise the country and promise the residents and citizens of Nigeria in those two states, I would believe that we are good to go.
What the particular interview was, a representative of INEC said that continuous voters registration exercise wouldn't hold as you continue. Don't you think this would bring about disenfranchisement of people who just turned 18, people who previously did not register to vote and planned on voting this year? Don't you think that would cause some form of disenfranchisement for people?
Well, Desmond, if we're being honest, before I talk about disenfranchisement, many persons will even disenfranchise themselves, if there's any word like that. Because one of the implications of having elections in this period is voters' apathy. As much as INEC would want to go out of their way to ensure that people are safe, you do know that in a country where we're already struggling to encourage people to come out when there's no pandemic, when if it rains, the chances that elections will go as smooth as possible, and when it comes to voters turnout, is slim. So let's not talk about when people's health is at stake. So I think that as much as we are going ahead to hold the elections, let's not forget that voter apathy will be a thing that we'll be battling with. Outside that, on the question you've asked concerning disenfranchisement, yes, a lot of people will be disenfranchised. But again, we have to look at the overall part of it. Yes, the democracy majority matter, but we have to look at the overall goal, which is that there's a constitutional term limit for the governor. And by November 12th, the governor in Edo State's tenure would have ended. And so it's important that the greater number of persons who are able to participate they do the exercise, and we're able to get off it. Any attempt, and that state is already embroiled in serious crisis currently. You know, the governor has had a running battle with his predecessor, who is the national chairman of his party, the APC, and there are about 12 aspirants running with 11 aspirants running with the governor in the APC. So that election is already a very tense one. Those states will be a hotbed in the coming months, especially when campaigns start, because there's going to be a lot of mudslinging. I can assure you that there's going to be mudslinging. We just hope that there will not be violence. So when you put all of this together, any attempt to postpone the elections would mean that could raise eyebrows. Persons could
Mm-hmm.
say perhaps maybe the faction of the national chairman we want to align with federal minds to ensure that that's one assumption I'm thinking. And that one, I'm already hearing things like the governor is trying to extend his term limit and a lot of that. For Ondo State, you may not have much of that, but for Edo State, I can assure you that this election is a major decider, and it will even seem like the opposition is not even existing at this time. When you add all of this together, the election is a major one that everybody in the country wants to see the outcome. Will the governor be able to have his way? Judging from the antecedents of what had happened with the national chairman and governors he's had a running battle with. So when we add all of this, together, we would see that postponing the elections may do more harm than good.
Postponing the elections may do more harm than good, which now pushes the conversation to how to ensure smooth flow of this election. So shouldn't we adopt electronic voting? Shouldn't we? I read a particular article and which says that talks about how people can adopt new means. A lot of sectors are embracing technology. Can we embrace technology to ensure that maybe you could vote from your house? Or do you think we're not ripe enough for that?
Desmond, to be honest with you, I think that we are not doing ourselves any good if by now, for the fact that we are still yet to transition to electronic voting. And it's not just about electronic voting. You must understand that in Nigeria, we have so many unfounded fears about things that will make our lives better. Someone once said that system means anything that will save you stress, time, energy, and money. Now, when you look at it, even the television that we watch, I'm talking about programs on TV, Nigeria has still been unable to transition fully from analog broadcast to digital broadcast. There are still a lot of stations in the country, and they've shifted the deadline more than once. Now, bringing that to the elections, we could have had largely a technologically driven election in the last time, but you saw the whole brouhaha that came from it. We put up a lot of unfounded fears most time when it comes to transition from analog means or a more difficult and primitive means to technology. Ordinarily, I would think that should not even be a debate at all. By now, we are supposed to be leading the rest of the world. In this part of the world, talking about West Africa, if not the entire Africa, we're supposed to be leading them in use of technology for our electoral process. So,
looking at the peculiarity of time, which is a pandemic, don't you think there's already that tension, like you said, in let's say Edo State, in one of those states, and let's say Ondo State? Don't you think with the introduction of line or e-system would make people even doubt the process more? Do you think people doubt the process, the credibility of the process?
Let me situate this properly. You need to understand that we have a large illiterate population. If not illiterate in terms of reading and writing, illiterate in terms of computer technology compliance. And so when you bring forth this idea, especially when it is sudden, you are trying to explain to this is the same pandemic that a lot of people don't even believe that it's real, that a lot of people think the government is trying to cash in and loot a lot of money. You already have distrust, you already have fears. So this is not even the right time to introduce electronic voting, because a lot of persons will be disenfranchised. And again, we don't even have any opportunity to test the system. INEC takes about 4 years to prepare for the general elections, and yet we still have myriad of issues. So compare that with when you want them to introduce electronic voting just about 1 month to, just about 3 months to the elections. Again, that would do more harm than good. The elections. Although INEC has said already that a lot of the submission of candidates' name and all of those things will take place online, and they've also advised online campaigns, you know very well that some mini campaigns will still take place. So when you put all of this together, you will see that the election is just around the corner. It's like we're having the election. It's more like we're having the election next tomorrow.
From what you said, and it screams for me. I'm just scared because it screams unpreparedness in my ears. But do you think democracy is at risk, born out from this gap that's been brought by the pandemic?
Democracy is not at risk because we still have people are not dying to the point that they cannot exercise their franchise. Democracy, whether you like it or not, is government of majority. It's a system by the majority. We still have people who will be willing to. Every life matter. But I think what this has opened our eyes to is to see the fact that we have to step up our preparation for many aspects of our lives, because the pandemic, we did not see this coming. So it just shows that if we think many years ahead, generations ahead of us, what will likely happen is that we'll be prepared for things like this, whether in terms of elections, whether in terms of holding our educational classes system online. But that is the kind of preparation that we need in this country, in all sectors of our life. We want a case where we should be able to think ahead of the future. I mean, nobody runs a country the way we run it. We just run a country with short-term goals, no long-term goals. Now, up to now, data is still an issue. So even if you are going to go online, are you going to tell me that those who have not been able to register will also be disenfranchised, even when you are doing the elections electronically from their houses? So when you put all of these things, it just shows that I think this pandemic has more than anything revealed to us the lack of thinking in our governance process. And we must do a lot to step up, to match up with not just the countries in Africa who are already doing a lot to show us direction, but to match up with a lot of the countries all over the world. I mean, talking about more advanced climes.
It's been really enlightening. What are some of the considerations you think, because like you said, it's just like tomorrow, what are some of the considerations that you feel INEC and these parties should put in place? Some of the things that you feel they should.
I would not want to paint a picture of fear. I try as much as possible not to. I am appealing specially to the INEC leadership in Edo State and in the country that the measures they've said they are going to put in place, they should ensure that we have these measures in place so that we don't have regrets in the long run. Because this election is a major decider of a lot of things that's going to happen. With this election, we can even say that 2023 has somewhat begun. I mean, the race to 2023, because whatever happens in Edo State, power base will shift. So I think that INEC has to take it very serious. That the political class also have to cooperate with INEC, or else it's going to do the country a lot of favor if they cooperate with INEC.
All right, thank you so much, Mr. Temidayo Taiwo-Sidiq, for joining us on Urban Minds Plus. This was truly. Do have an amazing weekend.